just the little nuances and stuff that you say and that you use that I be missing. Uh, I think you use person like 6 or 7 times, and it went over my head every time. I was just hearing it as, "Oh, she's talking about a person, not how it's supposed to be used in this context."
Okay,
And,
okay.
and it was interesting as I was listening to it, and I started kind of taking little notes. I hadn't had a chance to really dive into it and take notes the way I want to, but I've started to do it just kind of a little bit here and there when I have those moments for it. But it was it was eye opening. Like, damn, she said that. Like, how you missed that? Like, how you wasn't paying attention to what she was saying? But no, it's cool. Like I said, I always enjoy the reviewing and stuff like that. Um, it'd be funny with you. You be getting kind of irritated sometimes.
No, it might sound like that in my voice. I ain't irritated. I just be like, "What?" Like, "What?" Only because I literally would probably just say it, and then you was like, "What? You ain't hear me?" Like, alright, but no, I'm not irritated, I promise you, I'm not irritated.
No, no, it's cool. It's funny because you have patience. You have a lot of patience going back and forth and explaining and breaking things down. There were a few big moments, big aha moments in there. Like when we are talking about the transaction and the actual parties who were involved, and me separating myself out of that. Again, that's going back to the individual and the person being in the place of the individual, and me trying to take the place of the person. Like it's starting to come together. The picture is starting to form. Also, not trying to get get to the conclusion and the final answer because we're not there yet. I have to keep reminding myself that as well, that you keep trying to get the final conclusion, the final answer situated instead of continuing through the process. And once you get to the final step, you'll know it. But we're not there yet. So stop trying to know it right now. So that's another big aspect um, that I'm catching on to as well.
You just have to understand that it's the information, like, literally, all of the information, those are the tools and the things that you will be using. That is everything that you literally is going to have in your mind to communicate with them in whichever or however way or whatever it is that they actually want to communicate about, because you will say whatever, and then they will say whatever, and then what will you say next? And this is why you need to know the information. And the only thing that's really going to take you some time is learning the information, remember the information, and using it. You literally can't get to the using it part until you know the information. Even if I give you the information, you can use what I use, but what if they have something to say? What are you going to do?
Right.
It's the information. The information is the only thing really that you can use. You won't even really be using the document. You're just going to be talking about it, literally communicating to them about it and its process, what you are against, how severe it is that you use it. These is all information that you're going to need. So, that's why you probably like you be feeling irritated. But I'm like, look, because I know that the information is going over your head for something that you don't really need. You need the information. All the success that you see on my page, all the success from like my mentees and everybody else, they did that and I did that on our own. I'm talking about literally on our own, because you take this information and you're talking about how it applies for you and what you have and how you feel about it. Literally. Each article has something for the individual. Each article is giving the individual tools, it's giving persons tools, it's giving organizations tools, it's giving merchants tools. So you just need the information. Like, literally, I'm telling you, you just need the information. But I
I'm
mean, I
here
feel
for it.
like, yeah,
I'm here for the information for sure.
it's like I feel like you get it, But and it's not just for you, but it's so many people who think that there is more. It's the information. I'm telling you, it's the information that you need. It's the information that you would constantly keep throwing out. And it's the information that you would keep constantly rebuttaling. Whoever stops loses. That's the rules. That's how it goes. So you have to have a chamber of information where you can hear what they saying and then go back here to see, okay, I could have came back with this, or I can come back with this and say this. And then it'll lead us to here until we get results. Results
Right.
and results should be something that's always in your vocabulary. You always want to get to the end result. So it's the information, literally. So just try to, be present and focus. If not, like I keep saying, you got the recording and it's the information that you'll need.
Yeah. And I'm starting to try to take that pressure off because again, I I add pressure to myself trying to force myself to be great or better than or whatever instead of just being and allowing it to come as it comes, wanting it to come now,
Mm-hmm.
not just being patient and allowing it to come. Like I said, I constantly have to remind myself that because I have patience, but at the same time, I have that desire and the urge to get it accomplished. So
One
it's
thing for
it's
sure,
kind of
this
playing that balance.
will teach you patience. That's a fact. It will teach you patience. It'll humble you out. Like we talked about before, let you know you don't know everything. It's all in here. Like literally, it's all in your agreements. Anything that could possibly be. That's why the information is so important because you can make things out of it
Mm-hmm.
due to your interpretation of it. A lot of people consider themselves to be the principal person or whatever, so you gotta have some sort of interpretation then. But you're not the only principal person. Someone else has interpretation as well. Everybody in general is going off of these definitions. So those definitions and knowing those are very important so you can understand what it is that you even want to do or the interpretation that you should have using your account. How did you feel about lease and distinguish from security interest last time? We're gonna pick up and continue on there. We're gonna revalue, but how did you feel about that section? I know it was a lot for sure because we stayed there dang near the whole time. But how
Yeah.
you felt?
um. Well,
What do you
I have
remember?
a decent understanding. I'm still reviewing that. I was actually kind of more honed in on the first part when we was talking about what was the first section going over? The knowledge
Mhm.
and the four sections, the
Yeah,
A, B,
nice to
C,
know
and
that.
D and
Yeah.
F. Yeah, D, E, and F. So I kind of stayed focused on that, trying to get that secured, and so I'm still working on the lease part of it. But like I said, I had the recording, so I'm gonna pull out my pen and paper for that section as well.
You know what? I just want to show you something simply because we just went back to that part. I just seen something that just jogged my or triggered my memory, and it's crazy that we right here because I literally just um read Capital One Quicksilver agreement with someone,
Hmm.
and I remember going over that section with you, speaking about story time. I remember you was like, "Is that called story time?"
That's
You
another
see
thing.
this right here where they said, "Thank you for."
Go ahead. Go
Say
ahead.
thank you for contacting us about terms on your Capital One account. Your current
Uh-huh.
terms are listed below and on the following pages. Right here where we at. They're talking about the terms, your rights when it comes to the term. You just see to it that the present value is set. It's a part of the term. You have to renew things from time to time. It's an option that you have. So just an
Right.
option. Just like Capital One just said, you should thank you in advance. You should be contacting me about your term. Of the terms of the agreement. You should contact me each and every time you get a page and each and every following page. And the rest of the terms is on the following below. Everything that I gave you in the agreement.
Right.
Your
And
agreement.
you said that's all about asking questions.
Yes, and knowing what you want, what you talking about, and the correct
Mhm.
actual questions. They asked you in Capital One agreement flat out to contact them about the terms on your account. So if you contacted them about anything besides that, what are you
Mhm.
talking about?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like you have to read each and every agreement. They're going to talk about the term and the options that you have to use the good and renew it. It's something that is determined from time to time. It is an option or it can become an option. If you discuss in terms on your account for renewals or the use of the good, then you allow for another person to become an owner of it. And the person who they told us want to pay and agreed to pay, they will actually pay. The leasee agrees to pay. The leasee will show respect to the good. If the leasee show respect to the good, then they're going to show respect to business purposes. They're going to show respect to insurance, to filing different things. So when Capital One say, hey, thank you, contact me about the term on your, what they say in this agreement or account. Let me see, just so that
I
you
think
can,
that's an agreement.
um, I think it said account because your account will ultimately be the agreement. I keep stopping my page because it's someone else's agreement. Thank you for contacting us about the terms on your account.
Okay.
It's your account. So Capital One, just like everybody else so far, they want you to use and contact them about the account. When you contact them about the account, you contact them about the terms. You're making sure your terms are current. You're making sure your terms are current to the agreement, pursuant to this agreement right here. This agreement has a lot of different terms, the terms you see right here. And then you're going to have following pages. You're going to have pages. You're going to be getting pages from Capital One. And those pages is going to have a term on it. We know it's left open. You have to contact them at the present moment, right now, at that time. When you get your account, Capital One has rights to it. Just as long as you contact Capital One about the terms. And that is literally before we can even get out of Article 1 because they're talking about transaction. That's what they're talking about, the terms of the agreement, the rights that you have to see to it that the present value is set so that the leasee pays as agreed. It's a transaction in the form of a lease, something different than security interest. So if you're not talking to them about your account and things that the leasee could consider or things that you could consider, then you're not calling them and talking to them about what they want to talk about. They said it right here too, but they just said it right there. But how do you feel? Do you see that? Everybody
Yeah.
talking about the same thing, but the people who contacting these people. That don't work. And it's an option. So if you call them or message them or talk to them and you're speaking about anything besides what they want to talk about, the option to perform is going to be taken away. We covered volumes 1, 2, and 3 where we talked about a price. I told you that was something that should not be forgotten. Amount isn't something necessarily has to be in your mouth. What about the price? That's something that has not yet been set according to the terms. How you feeling? Do you understand? Do you see that connection? Do you understand what I'm saying? You probably can't hear me. Can you hear me? I think you
Yeah,
was
I got
breaking.
you. I had a phone call came in. It kicked me out. My bad.
Okay, yeah, I would say something happened earlier too.
Mm.
But how you feel? Do you understand? Do you see the connection that you have to pay attention and know the information so that you can use these things? If something ain't going your way, you can start talking about the term. You can start talking about the owner of the goods. You can start talking about the leasee who promised to pay. You must know these things first.
Okay, and that's information they should have knowledge of as well, right?
Why wouldn't they when you just seen Capital One agreement talk about call me about the terms of your account? Yes,
Okay,
they do
and
know.
it's and it's using those specific words that will allow them to identify on what I'm talking about. Because
Yes.
like I said, I didn't I'm talking about drag out conversations with these people about this information, and they just
Probably
sit there
didn't
and just
talk
play
about
as
probably didn't say
never talked about lease, never talked about terms,
hmm?
never talked about any of that stuff. Definitely trying to say the same things that somebody else is willing to pay for it. If we can set this price, things of that nature. Like I said, I didn't beat around the bush all day, but I've never hit it on the head for sure.
That's why you just need this information. Because if you talk about the price and they say something else about the price, why you want to set a price? Why are you interested in the price? What type of price? A fixed price. A fixed price for what? For who? So somebody else can become the owner of the good. You see, it's all here. You have to use what's here.
Yeah, see, I was saying it in a sense of that this good is damaged because it's not completed. It's
Sound
missing
negative.
terms on this, huh?
Sounds negative immediately.
It does because it's damaged. It's missing. It's
All right.
incorrect.
They talk about
All negative. I got you.
when here they talking about granting things. Nothing they saying here sound negative, although they have options to perform, and because it's an option that may have caused something negative, they still talking about granting things.
Hmm.
You have to understand that it is an option. So if you saying something to them, it's not triggering their performance, that is allowing for them to earn anything new at their option. If it's ratified by them, guess what they're gonna do? Which you probably already know, but you're not gonna get anywhere. They're gonna ignore you. You're not talking about something that will allow for them to have the option to become an owner or another person who promised to pay to become an owner because they don't even want to become the owner. They said that the leasee would pay. Saying things like lease is important. It leads them down to Article 2A. They know about
Okay.
the buy and sell. You have to use the information. Had we not came to this section, you would have been either waiting for me to tell you, or I don't know, maybe it would have clicked into you eventually. But only thing we've been talking about is transactions and entering into them.
Mm.
What you're doing, you're using facts and circumstance. You're referencing that. That's it. You're referring to things, and you should be. I think crazy alignment because they tell you actually in the agreements what to refer to. I know for sure. I just read it. They reference in the future. So whoever has Capital One and isn't calling Capital One about the future and referencing things in the future that may and could be used and provided using your account, you're not talking about what they want to talk about. You're not referencing future terms. You're not talking about you're still staying negative. You're still staying in the past, talking about what was damaged. Nobody wants to hear that. Do you understand? Do you see?
I
They,
do.
they telling you what the reference in here. Meanwhile, is awe or people will have questions for me. And I'm showing you what I would do. I'm going to go right to that agreement and I'm going to go right here. You know what I'm going to give for that person? The answer. But that person could have got the answer for themselves. Everybody always told me to go hear me say go to the agreement, go to the UCC. It's there. I understand that it may seem like a lot, but if you're taking your time and getting the information, I'm telling you it's not a lot. It's just things to remember. If you want to receive your agreement, which they let you know you're going to get your account, so that's agreed upon, right?
Hmm.
Every single month you're going to get that account. You need to be contacting them. There's some things that need to be determined for future references. And the way that you contact them and talk to them about performance to cover any type of cost is if you bargain the facts. You talk about the circumstance that you in at the time. That is the only thing that is going to allow for you to enter into a transaction. Or are we talking about a cost now? Or we're talking about value now? We're talking about a price. We're talking about something fixed. We're talking about something different. We're moving forward. I'm entering into something new. So I don't care about what happened in the past. I'm talking about in contacting Capital One or whoever about the terms so that we can renew some things. Renew who they believe or identify as the owner of the good. Do you want to be the owner of the good?
No.
So you have to talk about things like that. You have to talk about not even just not wanting to be the owner of the good, but Reasons why you shouldn't be the owner of the good. Option that they have to be an owner of good. Option that they have to perform if they are the owner of the good. What could be granted to them? Things that's going to help. You understand how you feel?
I'm good. I'm following. Like I said, especially you pointing out kind of the differences with the agreement that you just showed, where it talks about future offers and different options that we may present you at a future date or at a later time that may interest you, things of that nature. So it definitely shows the difference between the way I've been going about it from a negative standpoint, telling them that they've done something wrong versus asking them questions about things that we possibly can do better, or not better, but do different, or other options we have to continue in the future.
And you know why you could talk that way and talk about the future? Because you saw it in the agreement. You saw it
Mm-hmm.
in their agreement what they were interested in. So I'm telling you, your agreements in the UCC is going to give you information to help expanding commerce. It's going to allow and help other people or persons to enter into commercial transactions. So you initiate the transaction, they'll enter into a commercial one. To extend credit, literally, let's read it. So let's see what value is all about. Except as otherwise provided in Articles 3, 4, and 5, and 6. So value is defined in 3, 4, 5, and 6. You got to go to each one of those articles to understand what value is. You may try to pick up the phone and talk to them about value, but you must understand that value is different for each person. Value is also defined in 3, 4, 5, and 6. What type of value are you talking about? Do you understand? Do you see that?
Yeah.
This is why it's important to read the agreement, get to know it. It's important to read this and get to know it. Your agreements is made from this, and anything that comes from an agreement, like a contract, is made from this. So, except as otherwise provided in Article 3, 4, 5, and 6, a person gives value for rights. They care about your rights. You have a right. Let's just use this capital one, even though we're getting well ahead. We're going to look at whatever agreement you want in the future, but because I use that as an example, let's keep comparing this to that. They told you that, and they thanked you. As long as you know you have a right. They're saying thank you. Thank you in advance. That means you have a right to do something. Do you agree?
Yes.
You have the right to contact them about the terms on your agreement. And then that other person who we saw, capital one, who has rights, they'll take your rights and value. They'll give something for that. So that means that you must know your rights so that the person can acquire them. If you don't know your rights, how are they going to do anything for you or on your behalf if you don't know what right you have? How can they do it? How can I tell you it if I didn't go and read it and look at it for myself to see? Thank you for opening it or contacting me. You know you ain't contacting nobody about no terms on the account. So they're telling you what you should be doing. That means that knowing your rights is more valuable than anything. Because if you don't know your rights, you can't call them and talk to them about anything. That person is interested in acquiring your rights. They don't care about the statement you got. They care about creating another statement. That means that there's going to be another form. That means that your document may not be that important to them. They care about your rights when it comes to that document so that they can renew things. Do you understand? How you feeling? What's your thoughts? You with me? I think I lost you again.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was about to say I definitely lost
Okay.
you.
Yeah, I lost it. I missed a good little bit of that.
So I only really got to this part right here. And I was just,
Okay.
you know that for that person on the other end of the phone, your rights is valuable. If you don't know your rights, then the other person can acquire them and y'all don't have nothing to talk about. They need to know your rights when it comes to values, different values, especially the present value, because that's how you create a fixed price.
Okay.
If you don't know your rights, it's nothing you can do. Nothing you can do, because you're going to call them about the account and you don't even know what rights you have to use the account. The only way you're going to know what rights you have to use the account is if you look at the agreement.
Agreement, yeah. So everything is, my rights are found in the agreement. So until I know this information, I can't even refer to the agreement to identify what rights I have so I can express to them.
Period. So here first is where you get the idea that I have rights. I have rights when it comes to value. I see no value. So if you see nothing and no value when you get your document or you have this agreement or account in your possession, then you have the right to give another person. They care about your rights. They don't care about anything else that you think you have that's valuable. They care about your rights. So for as long as you know your rights, then they're going to see to it that they do right. Literally. If you call them and talking about anything else besides the right that you have to use your account according to that agreement, allowing for them to acquire those rights as well, you're not talking about anything. If you contact them and they hit you back with something else, you have to talk to them about something else that you have the right to talk to them about. You can't just talk to them about anything. They're not going to just talk to you about anything. Everybody's
Okay.
getting information from here and the agreements. That's what's helping forming contracts, which they are calling it a pre-existing contract. So let's just revalue. We already got past the first part. Value is included 1, 2, 3 things, 4 things that they consider value to be when it comes to a rights that another person can give or grant to another person for them to acquire. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So 1, in return for a binding commitment, is to extend credit. Do you got a binding commitment with anybody?
My original contract.
So in return for a binding commitment is to extend credit, or that Capital One agreement we just looked at where they said thank you for using your account and contacting us about the terms.
Right.
That agreement that we read, that was a binding commitment. That was a binding commitment. We just read prior to that the leasee promised to pay. That's a binding commitment. Why would they promise to pay? Why would they do that? Why was that something that they would do? Why would we keep creating these binding commitments? Notice they're not talking about agreements, but binding commitments where we both promise to do something. It's to extend credit. So the Capital One agreement, it's all about credit. Any agreement that you have, it's all about credit. Any
So
binding.
that extension of immediate available credit is that uh that billing statement that I receive.
Yes, and that's why you created that binding commitment, that binding agreement, so that you can extend back to them credit. You don't get the credit. On return, they get the credit. They get whatever is available. So this is why you knowing your rights and allowing for them to acquire them matters. They acquired your rights at one point in time so that they can return or give or sell a binding commitment to extend credit to you. You got that. They received the loan. So you got that credit in the beginning. But then they also have rights for the extension of immediate available credit. So 2 different things. They can work on either side of this, or we normally stuck on this side. This is whether or
Well,
not. Oh, I heard you.
no, I was about to go through my little process. I was gonna say, well, how do I ask that? Well, you ask that by answering questions. Well, what questions do I ask? You ask questions about your rights. Well, where do I find the rights? Okay, I'm just following my little process. That's all.
If
The
you
first question, well, how do I do that? Well, how do I do that? We've already answered that question. You ask questions. That's how you do that.
and
That's
it's
how
in the
you.
information, we literally have been talking about it and comparing it
Hmm.
to the Capital One agreement. When you call Capital One and talk to them about the terms on your account, you're using your rights. They already used your rights to extend credit to you. So that's dead. That's over. Now, in return, they're able to use your rights and give you value for your rights so that they can get an extension of available credit. If you don't know your rights and you don't discuss the terms on your account so that they can acquire your rights when it comes to the account, there would not be any available credit. Literally, this section and this section is telling you everything you need to call and talk to them about, especially comparing it to just the title in a Capital One agreement outside of the other things within the agreement where they talk about the future. See how you have to know all of that?
Right.
You have to know all of that. You can know that you need to contact Capital One about the terms of your account, but if you don't know it's for the future, then you're going to be stuck talking about terms on your account when there's plenty of terms on your account. Plenty. They gave us a whole list of them. Plenty terms. And the very first thing that they said in the title is that here goes some terms below, which is everything you see boxed. And then on each and every page that you receive, you're going to have a term. The term that you see, you need to make sure it's current. The only way you can make sure it's current is if you're acting now for the future. I done said that 1,000,001 times. Without even looking at Capital One agreement, I literally have talked about being now, being present, being current for the future 1,000,001 times. And it's just about the terms. You don't live under any conditions. I think I've said that as well. It's just about the terms. So you contacting them talking about the terms, you already using your rights. If you already using your rights because you're calling them and contacting them about the terms, and that means that they will have rights when it comes to a term. Now, what term you talking about?
Right. So the terms that are on the contract.
The terms of the agreement. You don't have a contract yet.
The agreement, right? I'm working on them words. I'm working on them.
Whether or not, very big deal. Whether or not is a very big deal. That means that there are some things that's going to be happening, whether you know it or not. And we know that from notice and knowledge because they said, whether you know it or not, this is what we're doing. In return for a binding commitment, I will, in return, give an extension of immediate available credit. So immediately, you're going to see in millions of your agreements, you should contact them immediately. It should be signed immediately. Why? It's for available credit. And whether you know that's why they want to sign or should be contacted immediately, it's on you. That means you have no knowledge about the notice you received. And they literally talked about that in the section notice of knowledge. Do you see that? Don't let when you see whether or not go over your head because they're referring you right back to the section about notice and knowledge. So that as an individual, when a transaction comes to your attention, you can immediately notify the person. The person is going to take orders from the organization to practice due diligence. That means that whatever credit is available, they'll immediately extend it. Otherwise, they're going to hold it because you gave them a binding commitment. In return for giving them that binding commitment, though, they'll do something for you as well. For a binding commitment, banking and financing, for the extension of immediate of available credit, banking and financing. They're telling you who's giving you value. That person is going to give you value for your rights. So go to each section that you can, even if it's an agreement, even if it's here, and see everywhere that you see for rights, for the extension of immediate credit, for a binding commitment. This is everything that the other party would do or could do for a purpose. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So in return for a binding commitment to extend credit or for the extension of immediate available credit, this is whether or not it's drawn upon and whether or not a chargeback is provided for the event of difficulties in collection. So if you're in need, if they're having a difficult time collecting, then whether they know it or not, they're able to charge back. Chargeback is conspicuous. So the person charge back whenever they're collecting. Each and every time they give you a document, they are attempting or wanting to collect something. They're able to charge back in return for immediately available credit. So if ever you're dealing with debt, whatever is provided to you, in the event that you have a difficulty in them collecting the funds, they can charge it back. And when they charge back, whatever is extension or whatever it was extended, they're able to give you immediately available credit. It's as needed. As needed, you're going to borrow in the facts. As needed, you're in circumstances, or they're in circumstances. You're in the event. I like you being the person in the event, because in the event, it keeps you out of this business. It's just put you in the middle of it. You're in the middle of each and every event that occurs between the persons or the parties, because they're in two different circumstances, dealing with two different types of facts. One person is dealing with what was drawn upon, and another person could be dealing with a chargeback. I think they get a percentage for that. I've seen plenty of bills where they talk about a certain percentage chargeback. It's because they're going to be adding the fees so that they can extend any available credit. Do you have any questions? Any thoughts about that? The very first thing that they let you know when it comes to value is you giving them a binding agreement. In return, they're giving you extension of available credit. This is happening in different events. One where you may have drawn up a binding commitment, and one where you're getting a charge back. A chargeback is something that is provided. It's something that is provided if ever you are in a difficult situation. How do you feel?
Um, I'm cool with it. Just understanding the different aspects of it. It's really, like I said, it's just really reiterating everything that you've been talking about since we've been uh in this mentorship. It's
It's just in black and white.
yeah, it's
So
like I
this is
said,
more credible than me. Come here and use this. They're telling you way more than I told you.
but you said it in a different way, or in a way that's um I guess easier to understand.
Because I'm breaking it down to you, of course. But
Mhm.
it's right here. So that means that if
Right,
I can come here and have an interpretation about it and relate it to something, so can you. Because it's here. I ain't make it up. It's right here.
right,
A person gives value for rights if the person acquires them as a security for. We offer security interest. See number 2? So
right,
any event where you have a difficulties, the person who you're doing business with, they can charge back. They'll provide a chargeback. The reason why they're providing a chargeback is for immediate credit. It allows for them to acquire rights for security. They acquired security interests. We know that. But in the future, for other things, when it comes to extensions of immediate available credit, they're able to do things as security for. A security for another. Security for the account. Security for the organization. You have a lot of different fours. Security for binding agreement. Security for the extension of available credit. If you're not talking about that, what are you talking about? Do you understand?
yeah. They don't care about nothing else but that.
Nothing but it's right here. All the agreements that you have that we just saw in the Capital One, that binding commitment, that binding it's for this. If you're not talking about that and the terms and using your account and what was provided to you for purchases, you're not talking about nothing for them. You're saying a lot of things that they can take note of, but it's not what they want to talk about. Everybody, just like when we went through the values, they're going to go look at the parole evidence. This. Everybody is. Everybody going to abide by these terms, but Capital One, they're under conditions. That means that they're going to be the ones who's going to be following the terms and have rights to the terms. So for as long as I know my rights when it comes to those terms, Capital One will act on my behalf. They are a person. Do you understand?
Right,
So a person can acquire rights, or a person gives value for rights if the person acquires them as security for, or acquire them in total or partial satisfaction of a pre-existing claim. Maybe federal. They talk about notice of claim. Something that's pre-existing if they're already talking about it. Anything that you already see listed out in that agreement is pre-existing. Everybody have a claim to that. They said something. This is how you're able to physically read it. And they're talking about them being partially satisfied. So they give you this agreement with a lot of different things that already exist. This is all pre-existing. Do you see all of this? It's pre-existing.
Okay.
Existing. It's pre-existing. You using a credit card is pre-existing. What they want to do in new offer, somebody want to do one thing, another person want to do another thing. Your account information is pre-existing. It's gonna come to your resident, but then it's a valid U.S. mailing address. It's something that should exist. This is if it's different. You might get it at your house address and be cool with it. You may be fine with it, but if you're not, and there's some more information that you notice and has been brought to your attention as an individual that you can help with the person for, as long as you got that account, you should be talking to them about it because it's in your legal name. What do you have to say? What information? It's all about the information. I'm so tired of saying that, but that's what it is. What information can you give so that they can manage your account on your behalf in the future? That means you're out of it. We told you in the beginning, you're only going to be currently there. Do you have any questions about that? Do you understand?
I do. I'm trying to stay present and not move to the future. Stay right here and not worried about who else is involved and how they're going to be sending it and how to identify the other people that's in the agreement and the terms and conditions that they sent me,
Yeah, because
and
it's
just
know your rights. Like, forget what they doing business with. Who cares? Is they inner workings? Is they affiliates? They associates? I think they even said it here too. But no, because you don't need to look at this. But it's just what they saying. Like they're saying it. Oh,
right.
I was trying not to. I'm gonna mess with this social media stuff, trust or whatever this is. Dang, what was we talking about? I don't know.
So just now,
Yeah, I was coming here to look for something. Oh, right here. I say I know when I
it's
see.
about the affiliates,
Yeah, everybody that's not you. They're
right?
talking about Capital One, National Association. It's agents, authorized representatives, successors, assignees. Do it say individual in here? Anywhere? Do you see the word individual anywhere?
Nope.
I don't either. This is why we have to stay focused on the information because we have the account that they can utilize according to this customer agreement. But not if you don't know your rights when it comes to the customer agreement.
And me and the person are the applicant and the co-applicant, right?
You may have been an applicant at a time, but you're not going to be an applicant when it comes to this customer agreement. You're not the customer.
Okay, right.
You is not you. You are not any of their affiliates. You're not Capital One and you're not the customer. They're not talking
Mm,
about you. They just need you to know the meaning of terms, so that you can use your account according to these terms. That's all they need you to know. And they also need you to know that they're going to use your account according to those terms.
right.
You're not the customer. The disagreement that we looking at, it was to extend you credit, and it was also to give an extension of credit. They already have pre-existing claims. They're telling you and showing you everything. So what you have, it exists. You have to bring it to existence. And whatever claim they have, they can give you partial satisfaction or total satisfaction. It just depends on what you call them and talk to them about if you have difficulties when it comes to them collecting from you. What you say may trigger them to partially giving you something. What you say may make them give it to you in total. Depends on what they feel like they're securing you for. And they're gonna assume it from the event of you talking to them and providing them information. And they're gonna do whatever they can. 3, by accepting delivery under a pre-existing contract for purchase. So that agreement that you have, that binding commitment that we just saw, that agreement is something that pre-exists and it's something that's for purchase. So when you give it to them, they're going to be selling it. When you get your accounts and you have delivery of your documents, it's something that's going to be for purchase. The way that is for a purchase is through acceptance. And I'm damn near pretty sure they talk about accepting in that agreement too. Each and every agreement, they're going to tell you how they will accept. They will tell you what it is that they consider. They will tell you what's value to them. The person will, not Kamaya, a person. So rely on the information that that person gave you.
Mm-hmm.
Or 4, in return for any consideration significant to support a simple contract. Everybody want to make stuff hard. This is simple. What we doing is just considering just a simple contract. Nothing like the first one where it had all of those different documents on. Nothing like that. A simple one to support that. Just for an extension of immediate available credit. So each and every agreement we're distinguishing it as being different than a contract, because that agreement that we have, we're going to use it to create a simple contract to support another. I'm going to make an effort to support a sale of a contract, a sale of whatever was delivered to me is for purchase. I can buy it. You can spend your FRN if you want to on whatever was delivered. That's you accepting it, or they can accept it due to the pre-existing contract that we just looked at. The Capital One's pre-existing contract. It's a binding commitment. So there's terms in there about them accepting deliveries. They accepted one delivery and they gave it to you. They accepted everything that you gave them. They pretty much accepted, and because of that, they deliver something to you. Whatever they deliver to you is for purchase. Whatever you give to them, it's for purchase. So everybody's going to be contracting for the price so that it can be purchased. And this is how we just simply create a simple contract. When you have that agreement with that missing spot on there, simply you can create a contract if the price was there. Do you understand? That's the only thing. The price, the value. You have to give them rights to set that. How you
And
feeling?
that's not something that I can set. I'm just asking them, or just asking them questions about setting that price.
Right. You can't set it. You can offer it to
Right.
somebody else, but Capital One ain't say set the price and offer it to me. But you can offer it to
Mm.
somebody else and they'll help you because they have a testing field there.
Yeah, I filled that out and I sent it to Santander one time, and it didn't work out well.
Santander get a testing field?
You say what?
Santander got a testing field on their bill?
No, I ain't got no testing fee.
Oh, how I say, damn. Oh, but you saying that
No,
you actually filled in the numbers and sent it back.
yeah, I just filled in the numbers that I thought was supposed to be there, and I sent it back.
Okay.
But I mean, it didn't do no justice because the numbers that I sent were already established. It was already existing numbers, so it didn't add any value. Yeah, pre-existing numbers. So.
This is why Capital One thank you for contacting them currently. That way your account is always up to date. Your status is always changing. It is always current. So whatever was pre-existing is changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's new for them now. It's current for them now. They're able to renew. They're able to give return consideration. Whenever immediate credit becomes available to them, it's because they returned the contract to another person. Contract that was for purchase. So that means that you're going to look at that contract, whether it's Capital One, Navy Federal, whoever, because that was sold. And because that was sold, you're going to get advertisements every single month, deliveries every single month. Every single month, due to a pre-existing claim that they have to either take partial satisfaction of a money debt or total satisfaction of a money debt. They use security for both. Security interest was dealt with for partial satisfaction, and that's cool. That was what the pre-existing claim was about. You gave them security interest. But then there's another pre-existing claim. You see all these commas? It's more than one.
Mm-hmm.
Things are happening. You have another pre-existing claim. Each and every time you get your document, they have a notice of claim in that contract. But they could use that for security purposes. It's for the total now. How you feeling? Any thoughts? Any questions? What you thinking? That's
I'm
all.
good. I'm right here with you.
Okay.
This is, like I said, this is everything that I have to follow so they can acknowledge what I'm doing as value.
So there's a reasonable time, and then there's seasonableness. Seasonableness is a reasonable time. 30, 60, 90. It's reasonable for them. Reasonable time for you is going to be current time. Each and every time you get it. That's reasonable. They allow for you to act reasonable. 2 points that they made about a reasonable time and seasonableness. Whether a time for taking an action required by the Uniform Commercial Code. I'm going to stop there. All I've been saying is that you need to come and get your information from here, and your agreement going to have it, because it's required that you do so. If you come and observe the UCC, and if you read your agreements, then you're acting reasonably. That means you understand the action that could be taken or the action that they are taking. It's going to be required by the UCC. The UCC is giving action when it comes to those agreements and those contracts reasonably and seasonably. It's the Uniform Commercial Code. It's required. It's not something that has to happen for you. It's something that definitely has to happen for them, because we're reading a Uniform Commercial Code. And this is for them. It's required that each and every time they take an action, each and every time they give you an agreement or dealing with any type of binding commitment, that they observe the Uniform Commercial Code. So that means that you should too. That's the action, the only action that you should be worried about. Do you understand?
Yeah.
The Uniform Commercial Code is reasonable. It depends on the nature, purpose, and circumstance of the action. So that means that when it comes to the nature of my call, or when it comes to the purpose why I'm calling, or the circumstance in which they should take action, they're going to look at the Uniform Commercial Code, because the Uniform Commercial Code helps them be reasonable in their action. They're going to see how they can be fair for everyone. So if you have not came to observe the Uniform Commercial Code or read any binding agreements, you don't have good faith. You are not being reasonable. You're trying to take the action that the Uniform Commercial required and says that you don't have to take.
Okay.
When you manage your account and you talk to them about your rights and you talk to them about terms, in the event that you are currently in, it allows for them to determine the nature of your transaction, the purpose of your transaction, and the circumstance of the action. So that means that they're not taking no action if they don't have a purpose to. In your agreements, they give you all purposes. How would you know? Because they have for this, for that, for this, for that, for this, for that. It's a purpose. It's giving them reason to take a certain action. So you may even call and they ask you, what's the nature of your call?
Mm-hmm.
We need to know what it is that you want. What's the nature of this call? The nature of your call is the circumstances of the action. What action? The action that could happen in the future, according to Capital One. It's their purpose for taking any action. They can do nothing about the past. So, at the time of taking action, they need to know the nature, the purpose, and the circumstance. The Uniform Commercial Code and all of your agreements is going to tell you that. That is the only thing that can tell you that. What I can tell you is what I use from the Uniform Commercial Code, what I use from the agreement. I can tell you what I did. The Uniform Commercial Code and your agreements is going to tell you what they will do, what they can do, all of that. I get everything from there. It's nothing, everything that I'm doing, everything that I get, it's from the agreement and from the UCC, and I communicate with them. I take action. Take action on the things that I've read there. Take action on the things that I've read in the UCC. And in events, I speak to them and I change their circumstance. Why? Because they have a purpose to. They have reason to. It's because they understand the nature of the action that actually should be taken seasonably. So they know. They know everything that they can do. And action is taken seasonably if it's taken at or within the time agreed. So they give you a document and they tell you need to be happening between this time or by this time or by this future date. That's allowing for them to seasonably act and take action. That means that they're able to take action at another time. If no time is agreed, if you don't have no expiration date, or they don't say, hey, do this by this time and you may have any time, it's at or within a reasonable time. So if you're in a current situation or you personally getting whatever, that could be reasonable. Just as long as at the time that you take action or you try to act is reasonable according to the UCC. That means that you will have had to observe the UCC. And then you will have had to observe your agreement, which is formed from the UCC as required, so that you can see how they can actually take action. No assumptions, just presumptions. They already made the basic assumption and allow for them to just do what they did, but we have to presume. And it's according to the UCC and all of your agreements. The UCC and your agreements, it creates presumptions. It's with respects to a fact. You must observe the UCC. You must observe your agreements. You cannot assume anything. You cannot assume a thing. Nobody can ask me a question and I haven't looked at the agreement or looked at the UCC or know the UCC. If I answer it, I'm assuming. The only way I could get the fact about whatever the question is, just like with them, or to show any type of respect, I would have to have read it. Whatever was provided to me. Whatever's provided to me is a fact that was provided to me. And it's something that is presumed. It's presumed. That means that if it's presumed and I could use it further, I now have, according to the definitions of the Uniform Commercial Code, what I need for the burden of proof. I could prove it. The trier of fact must find the existence of the fact. I have the burden of proving to anybody who tried me, but not with assumptions, presumptions, presuming and moving forward based on the Uniform Commercial Code and what the agreement says. This is unless until evidence is introduced that supports a finding of its non-existence. Right here, only thing that they're talking about is this definition section. And they're talking about also notice and knowledge. So I'm going to highlight this. The trier of the fact must find the existence of the fact. They're in the section of presumptions. But before you even get here, and the reason why I know what I know to tell you what I'm telling you is because in the definition section, they already said it. I know this. So if it comes to value and it comes to any presumptions that I make, I have the burden of establishing a fact. I have that burden. They had that burden. They sent me something that exists. They sent me a fact.
Mhm.
Now I have to bargain that fact and I have to talk to them and I have to sway the trier. You see this? The trier of the fact existence is more probable than its non-existence. Exact same thing they're talking about here. Do you see that? Whatever
Yeah.
was introduced to you that supports the finding of things that was non-existent in the past, but is going to be coming into existence. You have to use that evidence. That's your evidence. The agreement that we're looking at, parole evidence. The document that you get, prima facie evidence. With both of those, you're able to presume the action that another person could take. Not assume, but you're able to use those things and have respect to any fact that you can find about it. The Uniform Commercial Code will help you. Your agreements, it'll help you. You can't assume anything. You can't make it up. We deal with presumption, not assumptions. They made the basic assumption already that you will be okay with this exactly how it is due to this binding commitment that we already have. Something that's pre-existing. But there's more. You have more rights. You just have to bargain the facts. The only way you can bargain the facts is if you know the information. If you know the information that you speak of is facts, that's going to be your evidence. Your evidence that will support a simple contract. Or you may be talking about something that's not proving anything. That means you assumed. That means you don't have good faith. You didn't reasonably observe the UCC or your agreements that was made according to it.
This is literally everything that you've been saying in black and white. Everything.
It's just that this is more reliable, where you can say Article 1-206 says, you see what I'm saying, versus Kamaya said. So it don't matter what
Right.
I say. It's right here. Learn how to read it. I don't know everything. The only reason why I know things, again, I read it. I
Mm-hmm.
read what was provided to me and I show respect to it. And I work with another person in respect to the fact. If it ain't about the fact that I have an account, or the fact that I have rights, or the fact that the price is not set, or the fact that it's not existing right now when it could, if it's not about any facts, it's nothing. If it's about the past, it's nothing. It's not current. How you feel? Any thoughts? So we're getting into part 3, where they're giving us the rules in general and what applies to each and every territory. It's different. Each party got the power to choose what laws are applicable to them. This is why you're so important in the now. This is why you're so important currently, because you have the power to empower them to make changes. They're going to follow the rules according to the law that's applicable at that time. And then there's permitted law that allow for them to follow another set of rules. And that is different according to each and every agreement that you have. It's a variation by agreement. You must read it. Capital One is straight up saying, hey, thank you. Contact me about the terms. Here you go, your account. Keep it current. Each and every following page that you get, keep it current. Navy Federal, like, hey, contact me so I can contact these 3 people because of this. Each agreement is different. You can't learn about one type of agreement and try to take what we learned from that agreement and apply it to something else. Do you understand?
Yeah.
It's different. It's different due to their course of performance. It's different due to their course of dealing. It's different to the usage of trade. How that company can trade or deal with the document is all going to be different. So their performance is always going to be in the agreement. You have to read it. There's nothing you can do about it. You have to read it. And outside of that, you also understand that each and every document that you get is also an agreement. And it will be different. One company bill ain't going to look like another company's. It's different. It's not changing good faith. That's your obligation. You have an obligation of good faith, no matter what. How you feeling?
My obligation in good faith is to trust that this is real.
And to always try to work with another merchant in good faith, meaning that working with that merchant according to the UCC and the agreement. That's what you're obligated to do until liability is passed on you. And then when liability is passed to you, they have the obligation of good faith. That means that in their course of performance, dealing, and trade, they will look at the UCC. They will deal with the different agreements. They will have the power to choose the law that is applicable and permitted according to their territory, where they are. This is how remedies are liberally administered. You don't have remedy. They do. And it's liberally administered to each and every person who has an obligation of good faith. That means that if they're going to make any agreements or they're going to sell and deal with any contract, they have to observe the Uniform Commercial Code. They have to make presumptions reasonably and seasonably. That means that they're going to be waiving some rights. They're going to be renunciating, taking some rights back due to a claim. It's always after the fact. So you saw a defect or whatever. You saw what you saw. That was after it already happened. That means that there are some rights that you have. And if you already have a pre-existing claim and they have a pre-existing claim, then they're going to be able to use your rights after a breach. That means that you as an individual have to notice some things. Notice that spot left open. It's a breach for them. So remedy can be given to them, not you. Do you understand?
Yeah.
The prima facie evidence that you have is that document. The evidence is by a third party. It's from somebody else, another person. Capital One is telling you, thank you for your account. They're going to give you a page. That page came from a third person, not Capital One. It came from Capital One National Association, its assessors, and anybody else who took that contract. It's a third party document. It should always be used by a third party. They will consider you to be that third party because you're not a part of that contract. But you do got the evidence. So if you want to be a party, you could be. That means you'll pay for it, besides seeing that the leasee paid for it. Performance or acceptance, the only way they can accept the document, the only way that they can perform to a document is under a reservation of rights. So if you don't know your rights when it comes to acceptance, rights when it comes to performance, how will they have the right to accept and perform on your behalf? You must know your rights. The only way you're going to know your rights is if you know the information. So if you know the rights that you have reserved when it comes to that document from a third party, then that means after you notice some things, you'll be able to communicate with them, giving them a claim. They'll waive whatever was done in the past. So that means that they have the dispute, not you. They're going to have that so that a remedy is given to them because they feel as though they are entitled to a remedy. They feel as though they are an aggrieved party because the obligation of good faith hasn't happened total yet, just impartial. They have an option to accelerate at will. You have an option to accelerate at will. So at any time, if you believe that you have these options, which we just read sections 2543, where they told us that it's some options. They have an option to accelerate that at will or to accelerate, period. Take action at will. It's an option. Something that everybody has when it comes to subordinated obligations, like them being obligated to pay in reality, them being obligated to the account in reality, you're just liable for it. So because you're liable for it, when you get that document, is that your option to accelerate? Is that your option to know your rights? Is that your option to give it to another person so that they can acquire them? So that they meet their obligation, the obligation to act in good faith. That means that they're taking your agreements and they're forming contracts that they can sell. Those are just the rules in general. And how those rules and these things are carried out is different. It's different. It varies by each and every agreement, and it varies by each and every territory. This is why having knowledge of the UCC in your agreements is so important, because the only thing that you can do is bargain the information. And wherever that person is, whatever that they can do with that information and whatever it is that they require, they will do so. This whole part 3 is giving you rules when it comes to different agreements, the territory of another person, giving you rules when it comes to the course of that person performing, dealing, and trading. They're giving you rules when it comes to good faith, rules when it comes to how remedy can be administered to them, rules when it comes to waiving certain rights and renunciating taking them back. How you feel? Any questions? Any thoughts? I'm gonna stop it before we get into part 3 because we just finished part 2. But how you feeling? What's your thoughts? What did you learn? How you feel?
I'm good. I like the way you kind of gave a brief synopsis of that, and how you walked it down, explaining it, walked right back up, and showing the process. But I'm good. Like I said, it's just everything that you've been saying. Like I said, this is the black and white form of it. Like I said, uh
Something you can
this is
reference.
what I really been need. Yeah, this is what I really need because, like I said, it is something I can reference and I can utilize this right here. And now I'm starting to identify the different areas that I need to reference in certain aspects of my communication with them. Like I said, my issue, well, not my issue, but the issue that I've had is communicating correctly with them. So now that I'm in the right areas and the right sections, and you're identifying what parts are communicating what information, it's really helpful.
And understand that as you communicate that information, you are transacting. That means that you have to be knowledgeable about the transaction. Anytime you speak up and say something to them, you are transacting. Anytime you contact them, anytime they're using their rights, anytime you're using your rights, y'all are transacting. All your agreements are about transacting for purchases, for immediately available credit, for extended credit. It's always for something. They have to have a purpose to take action. So if you're not talking and giving them reason, they're not going to take the action. And it's their option. It's their option. So that means if you're not talking right, guess what? It's not going to happen. If you say whatever you say and they don't agree, it's not going to happen. Why? They don't have a purpose or a reason to. You're not giving them any nature that they're familiar with. You're not referencing or communicating like you have read the UCC or observed it or even the agreement. So is there option to be like, yeah, no, or I don't know what you're talking about because you're not being clear. You're not being particular. I gave you a specific term. It's up to you now, currently, to be specific or particular and what that means for you and to you right now, according to these terms. They'll handle the conditions. You're not a conditioned being. You're not a limited being. But there are some sort of terms and rules that you will follow. They're under terms and conditions. So that means that you have to be aligned with their terms so that according to a particular condition, they can act in a different way, renunciating what they previously didn't do because they waived that right. They waived the right to fill in that spot. And no, I'm not doing it. It's not my job. It's another party's job to do that. Actually, I'm aggrieved that that party didn't do it. Let me tell this individual, let me put this individual on notice because I feel aggrieved. I feel entitled to remedy. How can you help them? But contacting them about the term. How you feel? You with me? What's your thoughts? You good? Look, we gonna end it and then we'll pick up same part 3, rules now. So that means part 1 and 2, you need to understand. Because part 3 is going to give you the rules for that. And if you don't follow those rules to the interpretation, then again, you're not doing anything. And it's at their option to ignore you. Literally.
No, I'm good. Like I said, I'm home now. So this is this is where I'm gonna get rooted. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to grow roots right here. Article 1 and section 1, 2, and 3. Once we cover it, like I said, this is you brought me to a spot to where I can find everything that you've been talking about. So it's making it a lot more clear, a lot more transparent, and it's beneficial because you've already told me and you've given me a pretty good understanding of it already, to where the areas that I wasn't clear on, you've cleared it up for me, and now you brought me to the place where I can reference and learn it from a black and white standpoint, and learn it in a way to communicate it and make it personal for me in my transaction.
Stick with the information. Because I'm telling you, over and over again, that's the only thing that they can actually help you. It's just the information, like literally. And the information, like they said, it can be used in a lot of different ways, in a variation of ways. It's by the agreement. So this, like I said, this game keeps you sharp. It keeps you on your toes. It keeps you aware. You have to always be raising awareness because things will change, things will renew, things will be different. So it's important to literally stick with the information. You're going to see in all your agreements, even in the UCC, they keep talking about the information. It's the information that they're going to take action on. They're not going to take action because you say so.
Mhm.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop it here and let you review so that when we